Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jaya Shri Guru. Sanatana Dharma Jayate. Dharma Rashtra Jayate. Suryavansha Jayate. International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate. Om Hri Om. Namaste everyone, and welcome to the live stream of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. It is absolutely my pleasure, my honor, my privilege to be here with you this evening as we explore the scriptures of Sanatana Dharma. We're going to be looking at several verses from specifically the Narada Pancharatra, and I'll talk about that in a moment actually. And we'll be talking about the Benedictions of the Vaishnavas. But before we do that, just want to make one very quick announcement, a very important one actually. And to repeat, the International Sanatana Dharma Society is presently in our year-end fundraising campaign. We have been trying to raise donations for the last several weeks. We will continue to do so until midnight of December 31st. So if you feel called within your heart to do so, please donate to the International Sanatana Dharma Society. The link, I believe, should be there in the chat, so please feel free to follow that link. And let me tell you, we have many things that we want to do in 2024 with these donations, including paying off this building once and for all. We don't owe a lot of money left on this building, actually. I believe it's about $12,000, to be completely frank and blunt and honest. We would like to pay this off once and for all, and then at that point our temple building will be 100% owned by the International Sanatana Dharma Society. That's one thing we want to do. We also want to renovate downstairs. We want to renovate our library, get new bookcases, beautiful bookcases that we've researched, and we've seen that these are affordable yet beautiful, large bookcases for our library, and on and on. We have many projects that we are going to be working on in 2024. But again, we need support, we need help, we need generous donations in order to do this. So if it is within your means to do so, if you would like to donate, again, please follow the link that goes directly to dharmacentral.com, and you can donate anything from $5 to $5 million. So please just donate what you can. And with that, now let's dive into what we're going to be speaking about today. Again, we're going to be talking about a scripture that is part of what is called the Agama library. Indeed, it's interesting. Just 10 minutes ago, one of my students and I were talking about this actually. And I was explaining how, as people know, when we talk about the Vedic scriptures, we're not talking about just one book, like in Abrahamism, or a small collection of books, 56 books or however many. We're talking about a vast library of literature when we talk about the Vedic scriptures, to the point where, indeed, there are different genres of Vedic scriptures that focus on different things. There are the Veda Samhitas themselves, of which there are 4. There are the Upanishads, there are the Puranas, etc. So many different genres of literature. Well, there is one more genre of literature that Westerners especially, and for that matter, interestingly, even a lot of Indian Hindus, know next to nothing about. And it's because, again, they are somewhat esoteric. This is known as the agama literature. Now, the Agama literature is very, very interesting. It's a vast array of scriptures, actually. And the Agama scriptures tend to be quite practical. The oldest layer and the most important, the most authentic layer of the Agama scriptures are all 100% Vaishnava oriented. And again, there are many, many different books within the scripture, within this genre of scripture. And then on top of this genre of scriptures, known as Agama, there are two schools. There is Vaikhanasa, and then there is Pancharatra. And they're both authentic. They are both very authentic. They have their own acharyas who are recognized as great acharyas. They have their own rishis, etc. But it is especially the Pancharatra literature that we're going to be looking at today. Now, let me talk a little bit about what are the common features of this literature. So again, the Pancharatra literature, the Agama literature, actually, is Vaishnava oriented. Now, historically, much later on, again, the Vaishnava layer being the most ancient, later on, there were books that arose that were called, Shaiva Agamas, and then Shakta Agamas. There are very few Shakta Agamas. But these were in imitation of the original literature, which was indeed Vaishnava. Now, what is it that ties all this literature together? Well, one could say that if you were to look at the Agama literature, what you would see would be Vaishnavism, Vaishnava Dharma in practice. In practice. Now, there is a good deal of philosophy in these works, but that's not the primary point. The primary point is action. The primary point is several things. This is what you'll find in the Agama, the Vaishnava Agama literature. And again, whether it's Vaikhanasa or Pancharatra, these two different schools, doesn't matter. You will find, first and foremost, everything revolving around murti. So it is in these scriptures that you will find, for example, descriptions and to the minutest detail of what the murtis should look like, whether it's Vishnu, whether it's Lakshmi, whether it's Krishna, etc. So there's no speculation. You know, people who go on and on, drone on and on, Abrahamists and atheists who talk about, idol worship, idol worship. No, there is no idol worship. Idol worship does not exist in Sanatana Dharma. Rather, there is science of murti. And when we say science, again, all of this information is revealed and is followed perfectly. So this is one thing that you'll find in this literature, the entire science of murti. What does this mean? Backing up, first of all, you'll find the science of temple, what a temple should look like, and then how a murti should be constructed, how the murti is invested with the prana, with the life force of the deity. So pratishta prana, the ceremony in which you do this. You will find exactly how to worship the murti, both in a temple context, but also as sadhana. And now, speaking of sadhana, you'll find many sadhanas within the Pancharatra literature, the Agama literature. So you will find so many sadhanas, it is sometimes overwhelming for people. There are many important mantras that are revealed that are now known in the Pancharatra literature specifically, and extremely detailed sadhanas, how to do puja in such a way that you do so yogically and meditatively. So again, I was speaking with one of my students earlier, Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopi Jana Vallabhaya Svaha, is one such very important mantra that is revealed specifically in this work, known as the Narada Pancharatra. So again, there is a lot of mantra, etc. So the Agama literature, one could say, is focused on how to practice Vaishnavism in a sadhana and temple context. And again, there is also philosophy, cosmology, cosmogony, etc., all the above sprinkled in as well. Now, with this work specifically, this is only one of the Pancharatra works. This is known as Narada Pancharatra. And in this work specifically, it is indeed focused on, the greatest of all rishis, and that is Narada Muni. But interestingly, while we do find that Narada does speak himself and teach, etc., in various places throughout this multi-chaptered work, what we find is that also Narada travels and he goes to visit different divine beings, including Shiva himself. And more than anything, he himself will ask questions and then receive answers from these very great beings. He speaks to his own father, Brahma. He speaks to, again, Lord Shiva, etc. And he asks questions, and then these divine beings give the answers to Narada himself. So it's an amazing work, actually. I was asked, are there any good translations? There are no perfect, let me say it this way. There are no perfect translations of the Narada Pancharatra right now. But there are several translations that are available. Let me just say this. So with that, let us now dive into the Narada Pancharatra. And we're going to start with the first Ratra, what is called the first Ratra, chapter 9 and verse 17. And if you wish to follow along, if you look in the description of this video, you'll see the verses that we're going to look at. So this is the first one. And again, this is Lord Shiva himself speaking to Narada. And this verse proceeds in this way. Mahadeva, Shiva, said, "Alas, wonderful are the glories of the Vaishnavas, who are always engaged in unalloyed devotional service at the lotus feet of Lord Hari, while controlling their senses." So a very, very nice verse. In this section, what we will see is that Lord Shiva himself, who himself is considered to be the greatest of Vaishnavas, is indeed extolling the virtues of Vaishnavas. Why are Vaishnavas so wonderful? Before I go on, I need to reiterate this very important point. When we use the term Vaishnava in the traditional sense, not the internet sense, not the modern academic sense, not in the Wikipedia sense, but in the sense that is described in the Vedic scriptures themselves, Vaishnava, and please take note of this, Vaishnava is not a sectarian term. Indeed, with all these other sources that I just mentioned, academia, Wikipedia, the internet, etc., very sadly, people will say that, Vaishnava is a sectarian name. If you choose Vishnu as your god, then you're a Vaishnava. No, that is 1,000% incorrect. In fact, I would challenge someone to find that definition of Vaishnava in the Vedic scriptures. No, that is not what Vaishnava means. It does indeed mean a devotee of Vishnu. That is what Vaishnava means. But with the deeper understanding that a Vaishnava is an individual who wishes to know God in the highest, God in the most intimate way, and to know God via bhakti, via devotion, in such a way that now they are fully surrendered to that which is the source of all reality. That is what is meant by a Vaishnava. So now, all that being said, let's look at what Lord Shiva himself is saying here. He says, "Wonderful are the glories of the Vaishnavas." Now, let us stop here. So again, when he's speaking of the Vaishnavas, why would it be that Shiva, who is supposedly, again, let's give the Wikipedia definition of this. Shiva, who is the god of the Shaivas, why is he praising Vaishnavas? Well, it's because he's not the god of the Shaivas. The Shaivas may choose to call him God, but that's not how he sees himself. Lord Shiva, as we have seen again and again and again, and we have looked at many different Vedic scriptures, where Lord Shiva himself is speaking, or great beings are speaking of the nature of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava. He is an individual who himself, when you see him meditating and he's holding the mala, again, this is the question, upon whom is he meditating? He is meditating, as he says himself in many different verses, in many different scriptures. He is meditating upon Vishnu. And he himself says this. Again, look back at some of our previous live streams where we have commented on actual Vedic verses where he himself says this. So this is not a matter of controversy. So he is praising the Vaishnavas, again, not in the sectarian sense. Sect you have to leave behind if you wish to understand truth. What you need to understand is what Vaishnava means is an individual who has fully surrendered their lives at the feet of the highest, of God. That is what a Vaishnava is. So he begins, wonderful are the glories of the Vaishnavas, and now he gives a little bit of a deeper explanation, who are always engaged in unalloyed devotional service. So this is the definition of a Vaishnava. This is the definition truly of a Vaishnava. What is a Vaishnava? One who is engaged in unalloyed. What does unalloyed mean? It means unmixed with anything else, unmixed with any other motivation. Devotional service. This is what a Vaishnava is. When we speak of true devotion in the highest sense, true bhakti, for it to be true bhakti, it must be unalloyed. And again, all that is meant by this is, just like you can have gold, you can have gold that is unalloyed. In other words, it's not mixed with anything else. It's pure, pure, pure. So what Lord Shiva is saying here is, what is a Vaishnava who I am glorifying? A Vaishnava is an individual who has pure devotion. And where? At the lotus feet of Lord Hari. So not just anywhere, not just toward anyone, not just toward, again, Neo-Hinduism and New Age speculation aside, not just toward, whoever you wish, like picking your favorite flavor of ice cream, as I like to say, no, but at the feet of Lord Hari. And now let's go on. While controlling their senses. So again, another qualifier here, where Lord Shiva is explaining that this is what a Vaishnava is. A Vaishnava is an individual who is in control of their senses. What does this mean? This means that they use their senses not merely in selfish pursuit of enjoyment, but rather they use their senses to serve God. That is a Vaishnava. Now let's go on to the next verse, and the next verse is verse 18, so the immediate next verse. And this is still Lord Shiva who is speaking here. Quote, wonderful are the glories of the Vaishnavas, who are adored by Lakshmi, by Brahma, who sits on a lotus flower, by Nagas, headed by Ananta, and by the demigods, and who meditate day and night on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, from whose navel sprouts a lotus flower. And that's the end of this verse. So let's comment on this a little bit. Again, he says something very similar here. Wonderful are the glories of the Vaishnavas. So he repeats this. Why does he repeat this? He's repeating this in order to make this very, very, very clear. That when an individual is a Vaishnava, what does this mean? A Vaishnava is an individual who is either on the path toward or has achieved the goal of absolute perfect self-realization and God consciousness. This being the case, the Vaishnava is an Atman that has now unleashed its full potential as Atman. What does this mean? When you meet a Vaishnava, you're meeting someone who is virtuous. No, not just a nice guy, not just your buddy who you're walking down the street with him and he sees a homeless person. Oh yes, let me give him $1. No, infinitely beyond simply the mundane conception of what it means to be a nice person or a good person. A Vaishnava is an individual who, when you meet them, they are an individual who are manifesting an infinite number of positive and auspicious virtues. There's nothing bad in them. They are an individual who they are wise. They are an individual who they are good. They are an individual who they are intuitive. They have the ability to know things that other people cannot. They have the ability to pierce into reality and see things in such a way that other people cannot, etc., etc. So when you speak about a Vaishnava, you're speaking about someone who is indeed manifesting all positive virtues in every way imaginable. So this is why Lord Shiva says this twice. Wonderful are the glories of the Vaishnavas. And now he says something very interesting in this next string of clauses. He says, now speaking of Vaishnavas, who are adored by Lakshmi. Oh, the significance of this is amazing. the significance of this is truly amazing. Because who is Lakshmi? Again, Neo-Hinduism and Wikipedia aside, no, Lakshmi is not just the goddess of wealth. Oh, you want money, you pray to Lakshmi. No, that's again an insult to Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi Devi, Shriman is another name. Shri is another name. There are many names for Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi Devi is indeed a manifestation, the feminine manifestation of God. This is who Lakshmi Devi is. As we understand the Supreme Absolute in Sanatana Dharma, God is a dual being. God is one, but at the same time, interestingly, God can be seen functionally as two, as Shriman Narayana. And then for that matter, with all of the incarnations of Shriman Narayana, as Radha Krishna, as Sita Rama, etc. So Lakshmi Devi is co-absolute with God, with Narayana. Now, with this understanding, when now it is said by Lord Shiva himself that the Vaishnavas are adored by Lakshmi Devi, what is this actually saying? That the feminine aspect of God himself adores, loves the Vaishnavas. And what does this mean? Well, of course, we understand. If you love someone, what does that mean? Oh, it means you protect them. It means you take care of them. It means that you are there for them. It means that you keep them close to you, etc., etc. So the Vaishnavas are very close to Lakshmi Devi. Now let's go on. Adored also by Brahma, who sits on a lotus flower. Who is Brahma? And again, I need to make this clear. There are two separate words. Brahman means God. Brahma is a demigod. Brahma is a limited being who is also a very powerful God, but an Atman like you and I, like everyone else. And Brahma is the highest demigod within any given material universe, who is the creator of that material universe on behalf of God. Brahma is the demiurge, to use Platonic and Neoplatonic and even Gnostic terminology. So Brahma is the demiurge. So even Brahma adores the Vaishnavas and offers his respect to the Vaishnavas. Let's go on. The Vaishnavas are adored by the Nagas, headed by Ananta. This is truly amazing when you see this string of clauses. Who are the Nagas? I've spoken about the Nagas a little bit, probably more extensively than anyone in the English language. But the Nagas are reptilians. And just like humans, there are many different races, many different species of humans. Humans are not just all humans. The humans are not all equal. They're not all the same. In the same way, there are many different kinds of Nagas, of reptilian beings. Some are underworld, some are in our world itself, in our planet, in the earth. Some are off-world and live quite literally on other planets, and there are many different species of them. Some are bigger than others, smaller than others, some have powers that others don't, etc. But in any case, when it comes to those powerful beings known as Nagas and headed by Ananta Shesha, who is considered to be symbolically, really, the most powerful of all Nagas, and who even transcends really the Naga race itself, but is, one could say, the archetypal origin of Nagahood itself. All of these beings, when they encounter Vaishnavas, however powerful these Nagas are, when they encounter a true Vaishnava, they offer their respectful obeisances unto them, because they understand that they are meeting a divine being, that they are meeting a being who, the person might be human in human form, but in actuality, this is someone who is fully, internally surrendered to God. So even the Nagas adore the Vaishnavas. Very good. And by the demigods. So now just generally speaking, all the devas, all the devis, all the gods and goddesses respectively, when they encounter the Vaishnavas, they offer their obeisances and their respects to the Vaishnavas. And now, this is a very important clause. And who meditate, speaking of the Vaishnavas, and who meditate day and night on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Very nice. So this also is the definition of a Vaishnava, that they are in constant and continuous God consciousness. internally. Externally, they can be doing anything. Externally, especially today, they can be a seemingly normal person with a normal job. Oh yes, they could be a yogi very overtly, but no, they can actually even be a very normal seeming person. Throughout the history of Sanatana Dharma, we have had Vaishnavas who were merchants. We have had Vaishnavas who were kshatriyas, who were warriors. We have had Vaishnavas who were kings and queens. We have had Vaishnavas who were indeed outright yogis altogether, and great brahmanas and gurus and acharyas and sages, etc. But Vaishnavas can come from any walk of life. But the important thing is that what makes them a Vaishnava is that day and night, regardless of what externally it looks like they're doing, internally they are focused always on Sriman Narayana in meditative awareness. Meditative awareness meaning the perfection of dhyana, the perfection of meditation, meaning that, yes, at times when you see them like this with their eyes closed and they are overtly meditating upon Sriman Narayana, or again, when you see them with their eyes open operating in the world, internally, do not make the mistake of thinking that they're not focusing on God. They are, day and night. Day and night, as this clause says. They are meditating not just on anything, but the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And now there's the qualifier again, such that you understand who that Supreme Lord is. That Supreme Lord is not just who you choose that Supreme Lord to be, but rather Narayana, and again, this clause makes it clear, from whose navel sprouts a lotus flower. This is Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, very specifically. There are many forms of Vishnu, many forms. And Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, very specifically, is the Vishnu who is within each universe, and indeed a lotus flower sprouts, and upon that lotus flower is Brahma, who will now create that universe. So this makes it very clear who is spoken of as the Supreme Lord. Not just anyone who we choose, but Vishnu, very specifically. Now let's go on to the next verse, which is now verse 19. So these are sequential thus far. For their own purification, all of the holy places and the earth itself eagerly desire the association of Vaishnavas and receive the dust from their lotus feet. Very nice. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful verse. And the beauty and the significance of this verse actually cannot be overstated. For their own purification. So first of all, who is the subject here who is being spoken of? Let's jump to this first of all. It is all the holy places and the earth itself, really herself. This is the subject. This is who is being spoken of. All of the holy places, if you could see them personified, and more, the earth herself as a goddess, as a mother, Bhudevi, in order to purify themselves. Now, first of all, keep in mind, these are exalted beings we're talking about, because everything is personified. So even a holy place, let's say Vrindavana, there is a goddess of Vrindavana. Let's say Ayodhya, there is a goddess of Ayodhya, and on and on. And then, of course, the earth herself is personified as a goddess. In order to purify themselves, they hold the Vaishnavas in such an exalted state that when the Vaishnavas themselves walk those areas, when a Vaishnava walks in Vrindavana, for example, or when a Vaishnava even walks upon the earth herself as a goddess says to herself, "Thank you, I am being purified by the very fact that a Vaishnava's divine and holy feet are walking upon me and upon my body." Envision that. Envision that. That you know that there is a being who is so pure, who is so good, who is so full of love and full of devotion toward God, to the point where if that being, yourself being the earth, yourself being a type of territory, a geographic domain. The very fact that that Vaishnava will walk upon you blesses you and purifies your being, even though you may already be a very pure being. Imagine this. This is what Lord Shiva himself is saying about the glories of the Vaishnavas. So for their own purification, all of the holy places and the earth itself eagerly desire the association of Vaishnavas and receive the dust from their lotus feet. Let's stop for a moment, because to the unintelligent, spiritually unintelligent, this may seem like hyperbole. Sometimes we will encounter passages in the Vedic scripture that almost seem to go too far, and they seem like, oh, it's a little bit of an exaggeration in order to make a point. Yeah, that's the atheist academician in you speaking and thinking, seemingly thinking. No, this is not hyperbole. This is not hyperbole. When we understand, again, what is meant by the Vaishnava not just meaning Joe Schmo, who might be a very nice person, but, oh yes, he decided, yes, I will now join the sect of the Vaishnavas because I like how Vishnu looks a little bit more than how Shiva looks or any other god or goddess, and yes, this is my sect now. This is not what is meant by the Vaishnava. When Lord Shiva is speaking again and again and again about the glories of the Vaishnava, this is not what is meant. What is meant is, again, you must exorcise your mind of any sectarian concept that you have. What is meant by a Vaishnava is someone who, they are so good, they are so pure, they are so really innocent, they are so knowledgeable, truly knowledgeable, not PhDs, they have wisdom to them, they are heavy with wisdom. Beings who are so wonderful in every manner that when you meet them, when you encounter them, you almost spontaneously begin to cry because you cannot even believe that you're meeting such an amazing human being. Someone who is this close to God that you feel as if you're meeting purity incarnate. This is what is meant by the Vaishnava. This is what is meant by the Vaishnava. So when we understand this is not hyperbole in any way whatsoever. Let's go on. Now we're going to skip a few verses and we're going to now verse 21. The knowers of spiritual science call that person a Vaishnava, a purifier of the entire world, who has received a Krishna mantra from the mouth of a twice-born spiritual master. Again, more definition. And it's interesting how we've seen quite a few definitions that are given here by Lord Shiva himself. It's not possible to encapsulate fully what the Vaishnava is by just giving one definition, like a dictionary, or again, Wikipedia, something silly like this. But rather, how interesting is it that he gives one definition, then another, all of which are true, all of which are accurate, all of which focus on various facets of what the Vaishnava actually is. So what does he say here? That what are Vaishnavas? They are knowers of spiritual science. The knowers of spiritual science call that person a Vaishnava. But they themselves also, if they're being called this by knowers of spiritual science, why would they be? It's because they themselves also are. So those individuals who are truly intelligent and who truly know spiritual science, again, not made up nonsense, not something that you heard from your life coach, not something that you read from a book on the Oprah Winfrey book club. No. True spiritual science that is as ancient can be, that is as eternal, that is as true, that is as universal as anything can be. True spiritual science, that is Sanatana Dharma. Those individuals who understand this perfectly and who know this perfectly, they understand the nature of the Vaishnava in every way. And the Vaishnava is indeed such an individual. So knowers of spiritual science call that person a Vaishnava. And what is the Vaishnava? Yet another definition here, a purifier of the entire world. A purifier of the entire world. Indeed, it's arguable whether the world would even continue, would even persist in its existence unless there were the presence of a minimum of one Vaishnava upon the earth. Indeed, it is the Vaishnavas alone who purify this place. I can talk about this very, very deep, in fact almost too deeply, so we'll go on. Who has received a Krishna mantra. So, very important. Indeed, a Vaishnava is an individual also who is initiated, an individual who is meditating upon the names of Krishna, by extension, of course, any of the Vishnu Tattva. So it can be Narayana mantra, Vishnu mantra, Rama mantra, etc. In this case, indeed, this Narada Pancharatra does indeed focus on Krishna. That is the point of this Pancharatra. There are different scriptures who focus on different aspects of Vishnu Tattva. So the Ramayana is fully focused on Rama, and then different Puranas will focus on different aspects of God, of Vishnu Tattva. In the case of the Narada Pancharatra, the focus is indeed Krishna, so that's why Krishna mantra is mentioned, and this is correct. I know the Sanskrit, and it is indeed correct. So, such an individual, that Vaishnava, who has received a Krishna mantra, and from whom? From the mouth of a twice-born spiritual master. This is also the definition of a Vaishnava. Again, it's interesting for those individuals who are followers, serious followers of the ISDS, and you've read our books and you've seen our videos in the past, and you know what our siddhanta, what our philosophical worldview is. You see that 100% of it comes directly from the Vedic scriptures. So again, this is pointing to the idea that for an individual to achieve everything that's being spoken of here, to become a true Vaishnava, a purifier of the world, you must be initiated in Krishna mantra or Vishnu mantra, and not just from anyone, from a spiritual master, a guru, an acharya, and even then, not just that. There is a qualifier that is here. There is a very important qualifier, Dvija, twice born, who is a twice-born spiritual master. What does that mean? That means a spiritual master who has a Brahmana thread, who is initiated as a Brahmana. Very important. Not just any spiritual master, but the individual has to be a Brahmana. Why? Because a Brahmana, of all the four Varnas, it is the Brahmana who is fully dedicated to being a guardian of Vedic culture and philosophy and religion and civilization. So this is how an individual becomes the sort of Vaishnava that is spoken of here. So we do not become our own guru. We don't take initiation from some person on YouTube. We have to approach a living spiritual master who is twice born, who is himself obviously a Vaishnava, and we take initiation. It is at that point that we now embark on our spiritual journey. Now let's go on. And now we're going to look at verse 22. As soon as a person receives a Krishna mantra, he becomes situated on the same platform as Lord Narayana himself, and easily delivers 100 generations of his family. Very nice. Very, very nice. So let's go through this a little bit. So, as soon as a person indeed receives that important diksha, that important initiation, that empowerment, that shaktida, that empowerment from the spiritual master, he becomes situated on the same platform as Lord Narayana himself. Now, for those Advaitins out there who are all giddy and excited and thinking that what this verse is saying is that the person becomes Narayana, no. This is understood by all traditional acharyas as explaining that what is meant by that same platform is now that individual Vaishnava has the ability to enter into Vaikuntha, into the same abode, into the same realm as Narayana. Not that he becomes or she becomes Narayana, but no, that they now have the ability to be on that same platform, i.e. Vaikuntha. And interestingly, and easily delivers 100 generations of his family. Now, this is very interesting. This is something, interestingly, that for myself, having read pretty much all the Vedic scriptures, this is not something that's surprising or new to me personally. This is repeated in many different scriptures. That when you become a liberated Vaishnava, you actually liberate your family and several generations going back and into the future. So this is, again, not hyperbole. This is something that is quite true, quite real. When a true Vaishnava, when such a divine being appears within a specific genetic lineage, that is an occurrence, an instance that is so powerful spiritually, such that the empowerment of that indeed reaches back intergenerationally toward one's ancestors and even into the future, to the point where even your ancestors will be spiritually benefited, and your children and your children's children will be benefited by the fact that a Vaishnava, a pure devotee of God, has appeared in their family. This is how powerful it is. And indeed, I should have said this earlier, a pure Vaishnava is actually the rarest of things. When we understand this, we understand how powerful this is, that a Vaishnava appears in one's family. And again, not Vaishnava meaning in the sectarian sense, Vaishnava meaning this is a person who, when you look upon them, when you look upon their face, when you look upon what physically is there as their body, what you are looking upon is an individual who, this is their last lifetime in this world. When they leave this world, the next place that they will be literally at the feet of Sriman Narayana in Vaikuntha itself. When such a person appears in your family, it is the greatest of blessings upon that family. So that's what is meant by this. Let's go on. To now we're skipping a few verses, but now we're going to verse 27. There is no doubt that a person who accepts a Vishnu mantra from a foremost, again, twice-born spiritual master becomes liberated from the contamination that has accumulated from millions of births. Is this hyperbole?
No.
Very good. Hopefully people heard him. And that was Krishna Prasada. This is not hyperbole. Let's look at this verse now. There is no doubt. So first of all, who's saying this? Who is saying this? A worthless Hollywood celebrity? And trust me, most of them are worthless. Your garbage collector has more worth than most Hollywood celebrities, trust me. They actually do work with their lives. I actually know a few Hollywood celebrities. I have in my life. Not many, a few. Who is saying this? A worthless Hollywood celebrity? A corrupt politician? A tenure-seeking academician? Your buddy Bob down the street? Who is saying this? Mahadeva. Mahadeva. What does Mahadeva mean? Deva means a god. Maha. What does Maha mean?
Great.
Great. The great god, the great Deva, Lord Shiva is saying this. So he says, there is no doubt. When he says there is no doubt, don't doubt. Because this is Shiva saying this. This isn't just some schmo's opinion. This is Lord Shiva saying, there is no doubt that a person who accepts a Vishnu mantra, so again, a serious Vaishnava who is on his way toward liberation, when he receives a Vishnu mantra from a foremost, twice-born spiritual master, so again, we've spoken about that, not going to repeat, such a person becomes liberated from the contamination that has accumulated from millions of births. So what does this mean? This is to be taken quite literally. If this is an individual, the Vaishnava in question who we're speaking of, if this is an individual who they have been in the material world for 100 lifetimes, 1,000, 1,000,000, millions of lifetimes, and they've accumulated karma, accumulated all sorts of things, sanskaras, anartas, all sorts of hidden features that are there as a result of being contaminated within this material world. Even if they've been here for millions of lifetimes, that individual can achieve liberation now, having had contact with a true guru, a true spiritual master, someone who was twice born and who is a foremost spiritual master. So this is made very clear by Lord Shiva. That individual now being on the path, once that person achieves the goal of Vaishnava Dharma, all of that karma accumulated for millions of lifetimes disappears into nothingness and has no meaning anymore, and that person can achieve liberation. Finally, we're going to look at one more verse, and this is now same Ratra, which is number 1, chapter 9, but now verse 30. The Devas, the Devis, the demigods constantly desire to have the association of Vaishnavas. As such, it can only be concluded that there is nothing more sanctified within the universe as Vaishnavas. So beautiful. Very, very nice. And this is not where Lord Shiva concludes. He goes on and on. Again, the Narada Pancharatra is quite large, actually. In fact, I had read it a long time ago, but I read it again this weekend. And yes, it took days and days for me to get through the entire work. When I'm not writing, I'm reading. And but this is where we're going to end, because this is a very good conclusion to this section where Lord Shiva is instructing Narada Muni. So let's go through this. The demigods. So first of all, again, who are the demigods? The demigods means the Devas and Devis. Now, who are the Devas and Devis? These are powerful beings that exist in multifarious realms above human but below God himself. So some of these are, let's say, everyday generic devas. They only live for a few 100,000 years. Some of these are much more powerful. Some of these are atmospheric beings. They are literally beings who, they produce thunder. They produce atmospheric occurrences. Some of these are beings who are tied to nature. They could be the personification of a river, of a forest, of a grove of trees. They can be the personification of a planet. Some of these are celestial beings, i.e., these are beings who they live for hundreds of millions, if not billions of years. When we speak of the Devas and the Devis, i.e., gods and goddesses, what Sanatana Dharma knows about the nature of the gods and goddesses is unrivaled by any other religion on the face of the earth. We know them intimately. We know what they do with their day-to-day life. We know all the various strata and what their various duties are. We know everything about the Devas and Devis that can be known, given our limited human brain. But this is who we're talking about, powerful beings. Some of the most powerful of whom are, for example, Surya, the sun itself, Chandra, the moon, again, Bhumi Devi, the Earth Mother herself. So the demigods themselves constantly desire to have the association of Vaishnavas. We need to meditate on these words and what is meant by this. Again, sadly, when it comes to our internet age, when it comes to our age where people have the attention span of mosquitoes, we need to truly meditate on what is being said here. That these powerful beings who I just described, and I can go deeper, I can talk about the Devas for weeks, and how amazing these beings are. These beings desire to associate to have the blessing of being in the company of the Vaishnavas. Why? Because the Devas, we respect the gods and goddesses. Why? These are virtuous beings. These are good beings. These are beings who are sattvic in nature. These are beings who, they have great responsibilities. These are the beings who are responsible for the rain, who are responsible for the growth of everything, of crops, of forests, etc., etc. These are very good, very powerful beings. We have tremendous respect for them. However, these are beings who, spiritually speaking, they can be somewhat mixed. They're very virtuous, but not all of them necessarily are even close to being liberated beings. They themselves wish to know God. As powerful as they are, imagine being a typical Deva, living, let's say, in Svarga Loka, in the heavenly realms, and you have a lifespan of, let's say, 20 million years, 20 to 30 million years, and you have tremendous powers, etc., etc. All of this came about due to good karma. It doesn't mean necessarily that you are someone, even as a Deva, who 24 hours a day you're meditating upon God. No, not necessarily. Even the Devas can have mixed motivation in everything that they are and do. This being the case, they recognize when a Vaishnava comes into their company that this is someone who, unlike me, what do I have? I only have power. Yes, due to goodness, but material goodness. I had good karma. But all I have is power. This is someone who, if I were to offer this person my power and say, not that I would as a Deva, but let's say if I were to go to this Vaishnava and say, stop meditating on Vishnu for a day and I'll give you all of my power, that person would chuckle, giggle, and look at me like I was crazy. This Vaishnava has zero material desire, material need. This Vaishnava has nothing in them but dignity and calm and peace and wisdom and humility. And that Vaishnava is doing something that I as a Deva wish I had the power to do. This is a power that I as a Deva do not have. To focus 24 hours a day with devotion and surrender at the feet of God, regardless of where I find myself, what circumstances I find myself in. I may be a great Deva. I will live for 20 million years, which really will go by like that. But this Vaishnava does not care to live for an eternity in this world if it means that he will be separated from his Lord. And I as a Deva, I don't have that ability to desire such a thing, and yet he does. This is why, indeed, for the Devas, they seek the association of such pure beings as the Vaishnavas. So the demigods, they constantly desire to have the association of the Vaishnavas. As such, it can only be concluded, stop here, Siddhanta. This is termed Siddhanta. This is something, a crucial term in Nyaya philosophy. This is the school of logic, the school of the logicians, and of epistemology. But this is also understood throughout the entirety of the vast realm of, we could even say, not just Vedic philosophy, South Asian philosophy. This is a term that's understood by the greatest Buddhist philosophers and acharyas. They also had acharyas. They actually used that term. This is something that's understood by all the greatest Jaina scholars and sages. This is something that's understood certainly throughout the Vedic world. This term, Siddhanta, it means, no, we've played games, now the games are over. Now we come to the actual philosophical conclusion. This is truth incarnate. So it can only be concluded that there is nothing more sanctified within the universe as Vaishnavas. Is that clear enough? And again, this is not little Acharyaji saying this. This is not Joe Schmo, not Wikipedia, not this, that, or the other. This is Lord Shiva himself. Who is Lord Shiva? Oh, the blessings upon you if you understood 1/10,000th of 1% of who Lord Shiva is. And he's saying this. There is nothing more sanctified within the universe as Vaishnavas. This is why, even for the greatest of acharyas, whether a Prabhupada, whether a Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, whether a Mahadeva Acharya, whether a Ramanuja Acharya, a Nimbarka Acharya, and I can go on and mention 1,000 other Vaishnava Acharyas. In their deepest heart of hearts, oh yes, they fulfill that function, that role as Acharya, but deep within, as themselves being, manifesting the heart of Vaishnavas themselves, really, they see themselves as servants of the Vaishnavas. For a true liberated being, for a true guru, acharya, etc., one of our greatest aspirations is to serve those true Vaishnavas. And we can understand why. There is nothing more sanctified within the universe as Vaishnavas. And it is in the company of such people that I'm going to end by going very deep. That we have liberation? Oh yeah. In the company of such beings as Vaishnavas, do we have liberation? Oh yes. Potentially, if we're sincere, if we're honest, we can have liberation. But more than this, it is in the company of such beings that we experience true devotion to God, that we experience true love, that we experience true happiness and true joy. For one who is a Vaishnava, other Vaishnavas are more than one's best friend. They are more than one's family. They are those persons with whom, when you are in their company, you know that you are in that place which is most hospitable, which is most safe, which is most protected, which is most warm, which is your very home itself. That is satsanga. That is association. That is fellowship. When you are in that fellowship, you're home. And it's the most beautiful of all homes. So this is what we seek. Indeed, these are the words of Lord Shiva. This is what he seeks. And this is why he speaks in such a way. Again, hyperbole? No, this is Lord Shiva speaking. And now we understand why he's speaking in such terms. Terms that we cannot mistake in any way. He makes this as clear as is possible. We are to seek the association of pure Shuddha Vaishnavas, pure Vaishnavas, in every way. So this ends my official talk, but not quite, not really. Let me talk about this a little bit more practical now. We are to seek the association of Vaishnavas. Again, Lord Shiva, I believe, has made this clear, and this is made clear in so many Vedic scriptures, all throughout the Puranas, Upanishads, many, many different places, other Pancharatra texts, Vaikanasa texts, agamas, etc. Well, how do we do this today in 2023? Because we understand we're not living in the Dvapara Yuga, the Treta Yuga, the Satya Yuga. We're not living in an age where, indeed, you can traverse deep into a forest. You can say to yourself, yeah, I am finished with materialism. I want to know God. I want to surrender my being to truth. How do I do this? I leave everything behind. I leave my wealth. I leave everything that I've known, and I will traverse deep into this forest. And I know that in time I will meet a sage. I will meet a yogi. We can't do that today. Again, this is not Dvapara Yuga or any other yuga. How do we achieve this sort of association with Vaishnavas that Lord Shiva is speaking of here? Practically speaking, join the International Sanatana Dharma Society. The International Sanatana Dharma Society is in organizational form. It is the association of Vaishnavas. What does this mean? Oh, join our Discord server. Again, I tell people every week, join our Discord server. What you are going to find is a community of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Vaishnavas. Some more advanced than others, some more sincere than others, etc., etc. It's a community. But especially those individuals who you will encounter there, who are my students, my disciples, who are individuals who, again, they understand the siddhanta, they understand the philosophy perfectly, and they are personifying it, and they are practicing it. What you will find are individuals who, when you meet them, you will be meeting individuals very similar to what is being said here by Lord Shiva himself. So if you have not yet joined our Discord server, please do so immediately. And more, be active on there. Don't just lurk. You can lurk for a little while. It's understandable. Everyone wants to know, oh, what is this new terrain that I'm in? Lurk for a little while, but then become active. If you want to grow spiritually, become active. We have discussion groups on there. Indeed, we have one happening tomorrow, Wednesday at 7 p.m., where scriptures will be discussed, Vedic scriptures. Join the discussion groups on there. So join our Discord forum. Become a member of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. Become an official member of a Vaishnava movement that is here to change the entire world and to save this world and to change literally everything in this world in the future, down to every single blade of grass. That is the International Sanatana Dharma Society. Help us to do this by, again, becoming a member. How do you become a member? Go to dharmacentral.com. When you go there, look at the menu, and very easily you'll find membership. Go there, become a monthly tithing member of the ISDS. In this way, you are now an official member of the ISDS. We know who you are, and more, you will be helping us to continue with all the work that we're doing to save this world. And again, this leads to what I started off with. Please help us. Truly, please help us. If and only if. That's a nice logical clause. That's there, syllogistic clause. If and only if you have the ability to donate to the ISDS. Again, if you're in poverty, please, do whatever you need to make sure you have all your needs met. Make sure you have food, make sure you have everything. That's different. But if you have the ability to donate, please help us now if you can. Again, the link should be there in the chat. Please go to that link and help us, because we are in the midst of our fundraising campaign. And we are indeed a nonprofit. We are a 501c3 religious nonprofit recognized by the IRS, etc. So indeed, if you make a donation, then possibly, depending on what nation you're in, but especially if you're in America, this will be a tax exemption for you. Please donate, and generously if you can, to the International Sanatana Dharma Society. Read our books. Again, go to dharmacentral.com. If you have not read our books, and at this point we have many books that are out and many, many more that are coming, begin to read our books by Sanatana Dharma, the Eternal Natural Way, especially if that's too deeply philosophical for you, because it's an almost 500-page book. Then get the Introduction to Sanatana Dharma, get Living Dharma. And again, there are so many books that we have out now. Buy these books, begin to read them, and to read them religiously. And again, if you join the Discord, our Discord forum, there are discussion groups where many of these books are actually discussed live. And you can do that. But again, become active. If you wish to be a Vaishnava, what it means to be a Vaishnava is, again, not merely to call yourself this, but to do, to actually act, to do sadhana, to study, to do seva, to support, etc. So in this way, indeed, you can have this association of Vaishnavas that Lord Shiva himself has been speaking of. So with that, we're going to end here. We will resume with our regular schedule again this coming Sunday. So join us this Sunday at 2 p.m. And I won't tell you what we're going to be speaking about then. I always like to keep these things a surprise. But please join us next Sunday at 2 p.m. And in the meantime, Namaste. Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jaya Shri Guru. Sanatana Dharma Jayate. Dharmarashtra Jayate. Suryavansha Jayate. International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate. Victory, victory, victory to Sanatana Dharma, victory to the Dharma nation, victory to the solar dynasty, victory to the very tip of the spear for the restoration of Dharma in our world now and in the immediate future, the International Sanatana Dharma Society. Evam bhavatu. May such victory be so. And such victory is unstoppable. With that, everyone, between now and then, I ask you all to please take very good care of yourselves in every way. Until we meet again.